Hey everyone, welcome back to A Champion's Mind. Today I want to talk about something many people fear but can actually be one of the strongest moves you make, walking away. I'm going to share 3 powerful moments when I chose to walk away. From the Olympics, from the WNBA, and even from the most money I'd ever made. Each time it wasn't easy, but these decisions shaped who I am and how I see success. Let's start with the Olympics. A dream for so many athletes. I want to tell you about the moment I chose to walk away from the dream and why. So after Paris 2024, I felt really good. Although we didn't have the Olympics that I dreamed of and pictured in my moment when I was working towards the Olympics for Paris, I really did feel like there was another opportunity for this team, myself, to make it to the 2028 Olympics. And going into the 2024 Olympics, I kind of had this doubt where I was like, I'm not sure, like maybe this will be my last Olympics. Maybe I can push myself to do 2028. Like I'm still young. I was only 30 at the time. I felt like my body could take me until 35. And that's around the time I would go to the 2028 Olympics if we qualified. And I was really contemplating like whether I was going to do it, go through the whole 4-year process of pushing myself, excelling, of commitment, of waking up early, of going to the gym 3 to 4 hours a day, going overseas and building that life over there and sacrificing my time with family and having all of my relationships essentially go out the water until I came back from overseas. And I was really contemplating whether I wanted to push myself to go to the 2028 Olympics. And I remember going into Paris, I was just tunnel vision. I was like, I'm not going to think about the next Olympics. I want to be very present for this moment because I feel like we have a great team. We have a great opportunity. We have a new coach. And this really is the year where we're going to make it to the podium and get that medal. And little did I know, it was far from what I expected. We had a really terrible Olympics. We didn't win a single game. That's never happened in my 3 years of attending Olympics. And I just was in this place where I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to end on this bad note, but really like, what am I having to consider to figure out how I'm going to make it to the next Olympics? And it came to this point where it was our last game and we had just lost. We needed this game to win in order to go to the semifinals and then potentially the finals. And we lost that game. And I remember it being super quiet. Everybody walked into the locker room. We're all disappointed. We're always just in our own world, trying to process the loss and the end of our Olympics. And then one of my teammates, Kia, had broke the silence when the coach came in to make a speech. And she made this speech where she was thanking Natalie, which was her last Olympics. And she started to cry. And then she also had mentioned me and then Kayla, maybe. And everybody started to get emotional. And I felt like in that moment, so much emotion wanted to like come out of me. I didn't end up crying, but I was very close to crying. I really was like contemplating in this moment, like, damn, this might be the end. And it would really be sad to see myself leave this team where we had went through three Olympics together, like going 4-year cycles where we're all pushing for the same goals, competing in every practice, making memories off the court. And I was like, damn, like if I walk away from this, that's what I'm going to miss out on. This community, this team that I had built with for so many years, and I was going to walk away from that. But ultimately, I knew that I had to. I knew that the value of me growing and challenging myself was no longer present in basketball. I had felt like, although I was at the peak of my game, that I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel like I was growing in any way. And in some way, I had learned everything I needed to learn from a life perspective and a growth perspective with basketball. And I knew that the purpose basketball had for my life was fulfilled and I needed to move forward or I was just going to be stagnant and complacent. And I chose to walk away because I knew that I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to grow. And I felt like I could no longer do that in basketball. If you're facing a moment where something you worked so hard for no longer feels right, take a moment to ask yourself, am I holding on because I'm scared to let go or because this still serves me? How can I create space to listen to that answer? Let's talk about walking away from the WNBA. This was another huge opportunity that on paper looked perfect, but deep down, I knew it wasn't the right fit. So it was probably my 4th year overseas, specifically in Turkey. And at this point, I was playing on one of the best teams in Super League in Turkey. So Super League is the highest division you can play for professional women's basketball in Turkey. So I was in the best league there. playing on a great team. I was making great money and I had a great year. Like I had a lot of great teammates around me where I felt like I was utilizing my strengths as a scorer, but also developing my skills as a point guard, being able to lead the team. We went all the way to the playoffs, to the semifinals. And in the semifinals, I ended up tearing or partially straining my hamstring, which going into game three, we had won one game, they had won one game, and it was the best out of three. And I was unable to make it to the third game to decide who would move on to the finals. And I decided not to play in that game because I knew if I did that, I would end up hurting myself way more than I was at the time. So I ended up sitting out that game and we went on to lose against a team that would go to the finals and lose. But from that entire season of me playing well and us winning, us going to the playoffs, I got an opportunity to go back to the WNBA. So I get a call the day after I had just injured myself from the GM for the Connecticut Suns. And he was interested in bringing me on a training camp roster to fight for a position for a spot on that team that year. And he didn't know that I was hurt. But then I did mention to him that I just had partially pulled my hamstring and that I wouldn't be able to make the deadline of when I had to be in Connecticut and actually go to training camp to fight for that opportunity. And he said it was my decision. He said I can either come hurt and try to figure out how to play and get an opportunity to play on the team, or I can just altogether just walk away from the opportunity. And then we hung up the phone. I was going to contemplate and really figure out if I wanted to take this opportunity. And then the next day I get a call or a text from the physiotherapist, and she was just really wanted to see where my head's at if I was going to take this opportunity. She was just really concerned after she had heard from the GM that I was hurt and probably considering still coming in and playing hurt. And I told her like straight, like I wasn't coming. And she was like, honestly, I've seen a lot of girls in your shoes or in this position still push themselves to come to this training camp hurt and risk being hurt even more. And it was crazy that you were willing to walk away from this opportunity when so many girls were willing to do the opposite. And it was a really hard decision. I thought like, this is what I wanted as a kid growing up. I remember at 13 writing on my wall, I want to go to the WNBA. I want to be a professional WNBA player. And I had this opportunity right in front of me, my childhood dream. But the reason I walked away was because I knew that although this was my dream, I was not willing to give up my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health to pursue and achieve a dream that I had for my entire life, because I knew that was more important. That if I chose my dream and my perceived identity of being a basketball player, and I was willing to hurt myself in the process of it, that it would not end up in the way that I felt like I had worth as a person. And it would hurt not just my physical injury, but it would hurt how I see myself and the value I have in myself. And I knew that although this is a dream that I wanted for my entire life, that what was more important was my value of understanding that what comes first is my emotional, my mental, my physical health. And I wasn't willing to jeopardize that in the pursuit of getting a WNBA contract. So I want to challenge you guys to think about, have you ever felt pulled towards something that should be right but felt off? I want you to reflect on how you can trust your instinct more. What small step can you take to honor your true path, even if it means walking away? Finally, I want to share about the most money I ever walked away from. This one felt crazy at the time. Turning down financial gain is never easy. So right after Olympics 2024, after I decided that I was going to quit basketball and try to figure my life out beyond the court, beyond basketball, and try to figure out what the new challenge was. Because like I said, the reason why I had to quit the Olympics because I felt like I didn't have a challenge. I wanted to grow. So I was looking for that new challenge in my life. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was going to be in business, but didn't know specifically what it was. So when I get home from the Olympics, I'm obviously decompressing. My body has been pushed to its limit. So for the next 3 months after Olympics, I was really just chilling, trying to recover mentally and emotionally. It was so consuming in every aspect that I needed at least 2 to 3 months just to get back to myself again. And I'm going through this process where I'm trying to figure out what I want. And then I get an email from my agent about an opportunity to play basketball in Italy, Rome, a very beautiful city, for the most money I ever made playing professional basketball, which was $150K. And when I saw that number, I was like, damn, I might have to reconsider like coming out of retirement, because Honestly, that was the most money I ever made. And growing up poor with nothing, with not having a lot of food or resources, money meant everything to me because I felt like as a child, if we just had enough money, I probably wouldn't have to go through all of the trauma and the pain that I did as a child. So growing up, money meant everything to me. It meant an opportunity to give back to my mom, my family, my community. And it had so much value in my life that I literally reconsidered everything, from understanding that I had already made the decision because I had these values that weren't in alignment. But I was willing to reconsider all of that because the number looked right. And I sat with it because I was like really tempted to go. It was one in Italy. I've never been to Italy, but I know from shared experiences from like friends and people who went that it's a beautiful city, and being there, you'll have a lot of fun. So I had that allure, and then also the attractiveness of how much they're offering me. And it was a really hard decision. It was really hard to walk away. But ultimately, I made this decision to walk away because I was more committed to my growth and being able to challenge myself and to grow as a person than the money. And I knew that although I'm walking away from a huge amount of money, that by honoring my values of growth and challenge and wanting to push myself outside my comfort zone, that in due time, I would be able to make that type of money, if not more. And it really just came down to the deciding factor that once I say I'm going to do something, that I'm the type of person who commits to that, and nothing's going to deter me or push me or make me go away from that, even though it was very alluring. And that's why I walked away from 150K. I want to challenge you guys. If money is holding you back from making a tough decision, think about what your true priorities are. What would it take for you to walk away from something lucrative but not right for you? What's your definition of success beyond the dollar sign? In closing, walking away is never simple, but it can be the most powerful choice you make. I hope my stories inspire you to trust your own voice and recognize when walking away is actually stepping forward. I'd love to hear your own moments of walking away. Connect with me on Instagram via DMs, and let's keep this conversation going. And as always, your mindset is your power. Use it.